We are live here with this is the Rushfield lunch. You've joined and a very special episode because I'm really pleased to welcome one of my great heroes, one of the heroes of the day of this time, the great chess master, what dissident. I'll give you your formal credentials here. You're the chairman of the Renewed Democracy Initiative and publisher of The Next Move, which is a fantastic Substack and guide to our times that everyone should subscribe to. I refer to the great Garry Kasparov. Thank you so much for joining us.
So where do we start? Where do we start?
Yeah. Well, I've spent the days preparing for this by going through the your recent posts on the Next Move, and it's worrisome. So I have a few big themes for this. You're of course talking to the people, citizens of Hollywood here, as well as Substackers around the world. The big thing I want to start with, why should we be worried about this? And we'll start with the most recent development. You have just written about the Jimmy Kimmel situation and what's happened there, and you've seen it through the prism of your experience in Russia. So a politician fighting with a talk show host, big deal. Why should any of us care about that?
Because we should not treat it as a single incident. You should always look at the big picture, because dictators or would-be dictators, they always lie about what they've done, but very often they'll tell you exactly what they're going to do. So there's a record. There is the historical record. If you study the rise of authoritarianism, of totalitarianism, especially people like me, I was born and raised in the Soviet Union. I saw a very short period of feeble democracy in Russia, and then its collapse under the iron fist of the new KGB dictatorship. And it's not just Russia or few other neighboring countries. It's a global trend. Democracies got too lazy after the end of the Cold War. Complacency is very natural. The big mistake that was made back then in 91, 92 is somehow we believe that evil can die. Evil doesn't die. It can be buried for a while under the rubble of Berlin Wall, but the moment we lose our vigilance, the moment we turn complacent and we forget about it, it comes back, it sprouts out. So we wasted few precious moments by historical standards where we could put a new agenda. I think that was American problem. Back in 91, 92, at the end of the 20th century, America was in the position to offer a new vision for the world. We missed this moment. And another important lesson, it's not exactly rules of physics, but somehow in geopolitics it works the same way. There is no vacuum. You don't do anything on time, you walk away, somebody gets in. And if democracies walk away, who gets in? Al-Qaeda, ISIS, Putin, Ayatollahs, Xi Jinping, you can continue the list. So as of today, we are seeing the very dangerous trend. And I have to admit, to my great surprise, because when I grew up in the Soviet Union, we looked at America. Yeah, we knew America had problems, but it was a beacon of hope, the guardian of global democracy. Today, it's not the same, when I was a kid, when there was the Iron Curtain, both, on imaginary one and a real one as a Berlin Wall. And we knew that's the one side of the world was freedom, one was tyranny. Today is no more geography. You don't know who is standing for what. So I recently had a podcast interview on the Atlantic with my old friend, Ambassador McFaul, who was ambassador in Moscow under Obama, in Obama years. And he just wrote a book on autocrats and democrats. And we talked about the very blurry lines. So all of a sudden in America, we're seeing things that were very typical for the rest of the world. I wrote about these potential problems back in 2016. I warned Americans that very soon, it's first Trump's election, they would discover that many things that, Americans believe were given, carved in stone, They were, in fact, more based on the custom, not codified law, but nobody did it before. Nobody did it before is not an argument. And all of a sudden, we discovered that the presidential powers, they're not unlimited. But if you can paralyze the House, as it's happened now, so you can basically push these limits again, until it's being met by steel. It's like bayonet. You push the bayonet, if it's mush, it goes deeper. Steel. And every step, on this road, it makes the potential dictators stronger and society weaker. That's why the story of Jimmy Kimmel, it's not just one step, it's a whole chapter. Because Trump thought that he was strong enough to challenge nothing less than First Amendment. And I think it's the response from the American society proved that he is not ready yet to win this battle. But yet doesn't mean that he stopped. So it's a process, because this is not a battle where you can make a draw. It's not about a tie. Either he wins and American democracy dies, or we win and we restore American democracy in all glory.
Yeah. So you have written. So you had a front row seat to Putin's rise and transition from democratic ruler
feeble.
to
It was a feeble democracy. Let's be honest.
Yes. Into despotism, and you wrote that vis-a-vis why we should care about Jimmy Kimmel. That one of the first things that happened when Putin rose power is he went after a puppet show. Can you tell me more about that?
Yeah, it was a very popular puppet show. It was on air for 6 years, since 1994, and it was really rough. It's attack Yeltsin. I mean, many of the episodes made Jimmy Kimmel, pale by comparison. They're really tough attacks. So making mockery of Yeltsin. And back in 1995, the acting Attorney General of Russia, who was Yeltsin's crony, wanted to look good, just, to serve his boss, and he wanted to close the show. As a result, he lost his job. So it's nothing new. But Putin couldn't tolerate it. Yeltsin didn't care, but Putin immediately recognized that these kind of shows, they will undermine his authority. And he did two things when he just took over from Yeltsin, two things. One, he restored Soviet anthem. It's very important, symbolic, restoration of the music of the Soviet Union. So to show that what was in his mind. Second, he closed the show. And by the way, he used the same argument. Oh, it's business. This is not about politics, because the company that owned the show had a debt over Gazprom, and the Gazprom put pressure on them. And he sold the story, unfortunately, quite successfully to many foreigners, including Bush 43. So again, I could see similarities. But of course, in America, it's the American traditions of democracy are just much deeper. Americans have great respect for the rule of law. But one thing should worry everyone who's listening this program or just following this case. So many Americans, like just Fox News or on the floor of the House and Senate, were willing to defend Trump's administration. That's, for me, this is the biggest warning sign. It just, imagine, we live in a world where Watergate standards no longer apply. You can have 10 Watergates in 1 month, nobody will notice it. The whole idea that president lied to the nation and overused his powers, it happens probably every hour. So it's very important that the standards have been changing. And Trump, let's give him credit. He's a genius of normalizing things that were abnormal. And every time we accept it as a new norm, we lose ground.
How do you describe, or how do you explain that to yourself? But seeing with Putin, the people who allowed this and went along with this, and what are the similarities you're seeing here between the people that are willing to make excuses for this administration as the people that who went along with Putin at the beginning?
It's more mind-boggling in America because, again, traditions and there were rules. And a lot of people who are today defending Trump or looking for excuses, they had a record, a credit history, a pretty good one. So it's just when I see Secretary of State Marco Rubio talking about, just geopolitics, I'm tempting to ask him, so what's happened to, I knew the man was a senator from Florida. This is, what's happened to him? How come, this, people changed. So except Ted Cruz, not my favorite guy, but except Ted Cruz, not a single Republican in the Senate basically said it's mafia business. I mean, you don't attack private institutions by such explicit threats of threatening to take their license away. So it's a combination of merging money and power, and also using every loophole in the law for your favor. And again, people watch. Okay, we're on Hollywood podcast. There are too many Hollywood movies about a coup d'état, takeover. It's good for movies, but typically dictatorships are built not with tanks on the streets, but over, slight, gradual, quiet change of the regulations. You add one paragraph here, you remove one comma there. So it's a slow process. And every step on this way, like, the Jimmy Kimmel show, or before, by the way, we had Colbert before. It's not the first time. They always try. Dictators or would-be dictators never ask why. It's always why not. So why not? So that it's not that they rush, just always, just put tanks in the street. Oh, Pinochet, Chile. Those are exceptions. The real danger comes from a slow process. It's like death by 1,000 cuts. That's why it's very important, even in America, even with all the laws that do exist here. Remember, Constitution doesn't defend itself. Constitution offers you good foundation, tools, but you have to fight back.
You had a great quote on this, talking about the puppet show that was canceled, and then the harassment that followed. That you said the government's campaign of procedural harassment and lawfare made it impossible for journalists and media executives to do their jobs right out at the gate. Freedom is often lost under a mountain of paperwork and crippling fines rather than a cinematic showdown against a dictator. Many of the Russian government's targets were never actually arrested or charged with any specific event. Many more were never targeted at all. A few people got shaken down and everyone else got the message. You think what would have been if Jimmy Kimmel's suspension had continued? What do you think would have been the impact and the message sent from that?
Richard, we don't have to guess. You have to listen to Mr. Carr explained exactly what would be next. So many more shoes to drop. He said it, not me. It's again, and Donald Trump already wrote, like instructions on his social media. So we go after Fallon, we go after others. So there will be next step. Anytime they succeed with their provocation, so it's a guarantee they move further. They view the free press as the major threat to their plans to control all branches of power, and I'm waiting for the Atlantic to release my third article. It's on the series called "The Putinization of America." It's about to be released, the third one, and I'm making an argument that the 2026 elections will be probably most faithful elections in our lifetime, because that will not be a simple midterm elections. This is not about healthcare or tariffs. They're very, very important. I'm not taking away. It's about protecting free and fair elections, the mechanism. Because Donald Trump will do absolutely everything to preserve control of the House. And we know from him, again, I'm not speculating, I'm not inventing things. Donald Trump do not lose elections. If numbers are wrong, he doesn't accept them. On January 6th, he relied on few elected officials. Thanks God, very few, and Mike Pence and others, showed that they stand by principles, and on the mob. In 2026, he will have many more elected officials. He will have the same mob that he immediately, by the way, first thing he did as in the White House, he pardoned people who took part in this insurgency of January 6th. And he will have under his control FBI, DOJ, ICE, Interior, and we can speculate, of course, but are you comfortable to think that Kristi Noem, Kash Patel, Pam Bondi will follow Constitution, but not Trump's orders?
I am comfortable thinking they absolutely will not.
So
given any chance.
that's why we have to fight now. It's very important to recognize this election. It's not a single one. It's not normal campaign. It's abnormal. And remember that just house is a key. The moment the house changes hands, the whole Trump's construction is falling as house of cards, pun not intended. So it's the because House Congress is the first article of the Constitution. Executive is the second. So that's why keeping House paralyzed under control of his cronies, which is amazing, having majority of 3 or 4. I mean, he managed to totally paralyze the House. So that's for Trump is paramount.
So what is Hollywood's role in this? In Russia, I feel like culture is never far from politics. It's very intertwined. But in Hollywood, we've considered ourselves sort of just entertainers in a very kind of passive, generic way. And Hollywood stars, when they become activists, have a habit of sort of hurting the causes that they get behind and becoming active. What does Hollywood?
But okay, Richard, don't undermine the Hollywood role in shaping not just the cultural political life. So I know that in the 60s, the whole process of opening up the society and fighting the systemic racism, that's very much led by Hollywood. To Kill a Mockingbird or In the Heat of the Night, those are just those like cornerstones of the new thinking of American society. So I think now it's very important to recognize that we need to come up with different vision, basically how to adjust democracy, American democratic institutions to the challenge of 21st century. And one thing is very important is when you talk globalization, you have to take it literally. It's not that, globalization is for goods, but maybe for movies, but we can actually, accept that others live, under different standards. I think Hollywood could do much more and to be very proactive in supporting these dissidents. And this is it. This is what America is missing, the experience of dissidents, not like myself, but many others. So the fight of tyranny versus freedom is global. And that's why the signature project of Free New Democracy Initiative is called, there's a front lines of freedom. Literally, the front line of freedom now is Ukraine. Ukraine fighting, it's a war. But there are many other things. And I think it's very important to actually pay attention. For instance, I just checked before our conversation, I checked online, so were there any news from Uganda? And why I'm saying Uganda? Because a great political leader, who is also a singer, an actor, and a lawyer, Bobby Wine, was registered. It's against all the odds to become a presidential candidate. Of course, the Museveni there for 3+ decades is a dictator, but it's very important to actually show support for people all over the place, in Africa, in Latin America, in Asia. So it's just very little, if anything, being said down in Hollywood about Afghanistan. So it says America walked away, but you have half of Afghan population, women, basically denied any human rights now. So it's Hollywood could take a role and at least bringing dissidents and helping Americans to understand what happens if you don't pay attention to the troubling signs. Because this is the unique experience that people are missing. You asked me what I saw there, and there are dozens and dozens like me from other countries, from other cultures. And also it shows that democracy is not just, it's the white people invention. You have people all over the world, just for all the religions, all the races, and just bring them in, show this, and again, got your fire to fight back, because this is very important. Donald Trump is isolationist, but it's not exactly, just separating himself from the world. He wants different relations with dictators. He's always far more accommodating to Putin, to Xi Jinping, to Kim Jong-un. So we have to do the opposite. We have to start looking for the world and just creating our alliances. Dictators Inc. keeps growing. We are, unfortunately, it's too busy with our routine life.
Why do dictators care so much about, with Putin, a puppet show, with Trump jokes from a late night comic? And in the Middle Ages, they sort of allowed these carnivals and let their leaders be mocked and sort of saw it as the kings saw it as a safety valve. Why are they so touchy about this?
Look, when you said in medieval times, we have to make very, very clear before the book printing. Yeah, it's the dictators must control the flow of information. If it stays within the walls of the palace, fine. It's anything that is under control is okay. Today, you cannot control it. And that's why you have to destroy it. So it's more difficult to destroy everything because, it's the building style in Gulag is too costly. So that's why they use fear. Fear is a key component. They use social media and technology to spread out fear. That's why it's very important. You go after one or two law firms. And if you succeed, 10 others will say, maybe we should stay away. You go after one or two shows, and then the others also will try to be quiet. You go after one or two colleges. Again, it's not against all of them. You pick up one or two targets. Some of them, these targets, it could be justified. I mean, this is you have some rationale. Of course, you expand it, and then you generalize it. Yeah, it's some of the colleges push probably far left, but it doesn't mean the whole country. Doesn't matter. They use it and they say the whole institution of American colleges is wrong. It's rotten. By the way, it's quite ironic that now Russian Orthodox Church is attacking higher education as this source of sin. This is dictatorships, totalitarian regimes. They hate educated people, and especially they hate if these people can disseminate information outside of area of their control.
Do you think? When you look at that, America's educational system has been faltering for 40 years now, and we've had a educational crisis that sort of no one has addressed for a long time. And with the advent of the internet, we have no sort of common understanding of what reality is. Do you think in that sort of environment, something like this and what's happening now was inevitable sooner or later, that we just didn't have the antibodies?
Look, it's an uphill battle because there's only one way to tell the truth, and there are millions of ways to lie. And you can easily, use all echo chambers to promote the lie. So there's no easy answer. And one of my tweets, it's a long time ago, a very popular tweet, when I talked about the point of the modern propaganda is to annihilate the truth. It's not about spreading their own gospel. It's about annihilating the truth. Putin, I always called him merchant of doubt. Unlike Soviet leaders, he's not spreading, the communist ideas. He's basically saying, yeah, everybody's bad. We corrupt, everybody's corrupt. So they are destroying our belief that there are some values. They hate values. So how can we fight back? Again, it's not easy, but we definitely have to, build our own, this is defense walls. And it's very important that we fight back. Again, in politics is tough, but there's certain things there's certain foundational things that are there, like First Amendment. Again, American Constitution is there, and again, it's quite amazing. Those who are willing to find every excuse to defend the Second Amendment, they somehow, they forget that they're defending the Second Amendment by using the First Amendment, but they don't like the First Amendment. So expose them, because there's so much hypocrisy. And also, let's be self-critical. It's very important that, it's just, you cannot destroy echo chambers, but we should not stay within an echo chamber, because I could see now that a lot of people prefer to stay within an echo chamber. And if you talk to people from another echo chamber, it's not to hear them, but basically say, they're saying this nonsense, I'm right. So we need more communication. We need more dialogue. Because at the end of the day, now we're fighting just to preserve American democracy. I believe it's an existential threat, but it's from Donald Trump's and his cronies. But the coalition that we have to build, it will be a very broad coalition. And I bet you that there will be a lot of people disagreeing with each other. I will be probably in violent disagreement with some of our comrades in arms today on many issues. But it's about protecting the framework that will allow us to debate, because debate is very important. Yes, I have strong views, but we can talk, and I can accept some of your views. It's very important. As of now, the authoritarian forces, whether it's in Russia, in Europe, in America, they're winning because they managed to separate people. It's a great divide. Donald Trump, I'm not sure he understands it, but great animal instinct. He's divider in chief, and he's phenomenal in creating this as the atmosphere where people hate each other. That's why, and he doesn't care. He can lie, but it's more like animal instincts. So we just have to, we have to oppose it by normal humanity.
So one of the things that strikes me about your story, this is, so you've been in this fight now for almost over 20 years, since you retired from chess and turned your attention to politics. And about 15 years ago, you had to flee Russia. Your life was very much in danger there, but it seems like the fight sort of followed you, and you're still fighting it's not it's not even another front. It is the same fight. And you wrote about how um, Russian bots and Russian accounts were cheering on sort of the divisiveness in this. How would you explain to people how what happened, what you experienced in Russia with the rise of Putin and what we are seeing now are intimately entwined?
When I stopped my professional chess career and joined the Russian pro-democracy groups, opposition to fight Putin, we had to think about our strategy, and the idea was to build as broad coalition as possible to fight for free and fair elections, even with many people in the coalition that I disagree on many other issues. Unfortunately, it didn't work out because, again, in Russia, we had no resources to fight all-powerful state machine, but also Putin has been treated as the legitimate democratic leader by the rest of the world. And it was a killer. I mean, when you had Putin in St. Petersburg in 2006, hosting the so-called G8 meeting with all these the leaders from the free world, from America, France, Britain, Japan, Italy, it's Germany and Canada, it was the most powerful message even to those Russians who were sympathetic to my views or Boris Nemtsov or other opposition leaders. Because how can you prove Putin was a bad guy if he is treated as one equal of the leaders of the free world? But also back then, Putin's administration came up with quite a revolutionary plan how to fight back the information war. China relied on this Chinese wall, heavy wall, firewall, just no information. That's what we had back in the Soviet Union, the traditional censorship. Putin, the opposite. They flooded the internet. They have been building, just like constellation of sites, and many of them had 90% of the stories that were similar to what I've been saying. It's about 10%. It's about a little piece here and there. So it was very successful because they could put many, the sites and people, millions of people who wanted to hear this message, they have been spread. They were basically stolen away from us. Then they used the same model for so-called near abroad, former Soviet republics, with a considerable portion of Russian-speaking population. It did work. Then they moved to Eastern Europe, and they ended up eventually attacking the United States. And it's the same mechanism. So you have so many MAGA accounts that are being, run by people from St. Petersburg or other Russian cities. And it's almost undistinguishable. And you cannot even distinguish them. So they know how to use it. So that, if you follow very closely, we did some analysis, you can understand, that they're being run from outside. But in just when it's a flood, no, it just looks like, you have ordinary Americans eventually supporting Russian agenda.
So what with the tsunami of garbage that we're being, and Trump is the master of that. It's like you're mad about the Jimmy Kimmel thing, and then he goes after Tylenol before you're even it. I feel like the ability to focus and drive a message is what gets lost. Like how do you what has been effective in how to stay focused and create a message when before you get the words out of your mouth, there'll be another outrage that comes along.
Yeah. By the way, speaking about Hollywood, I think there was a great movie, The Apprentice. It's some people don't believe that that's Trump, that's the real one. That's how the character was formed. Of course, it's much worse now. So it's not not just Trump, from the movie. It's Trump that came back. It was second coming to the White House, and he is totally unrestrained now. But again, it's very important to understand that when you deal with Donald Trump and with all the noise that he's generating, and again, he keeps generating all the time, is that, Donald Trump doesn't care about anything except Donald Trump. And there are two criteria for every decision. One is money, two is glory, monetization and glorification. Everything else, you should just, open it up, tear it up, look inside, and you'll find one or two or combination of those. And it's very important just not to be swayed by this tsunami of disinformation. Trump keeps lying all the time. And again, it's for him. I'm not sure even that you can identify his lies, because if you put him on a lie detector, I don't think it will show anything, because there's no empathy. So the moment he says it, he believes in it. He tells you that the gallon of gas is $2 a barrel, $2. So it's $2 a gallon. So that's it. That's in his mind. So about trillions of dollars of investment in America. The moment he says it, it becomes reality. So you can't fight it. But look, there are many ways. We can oppose this aggressive and arrogant policies. I'm not here to give advices, but it's very important that we show solidarity. What saved Jimmy Kimmel's show, I believe it's a public response. And I don't know the exact numbers, but it seems that ABC lost probably a few $1 billion. So, and they didn't like the trend. And Trump is Trump, but money is money. So this is a lot of people, just express their dissatisfaction, and many of them just cancel their subscription. So we see that how Trump is treating the people in presidential pool. So he keeps that he's throwing people away. He just, it's if he doesn't like the question, he's treating them, it's with not just arrogance. It's total disrespect. So, can we advise them at least to boycott him for one day? Just don't show up for one day. Let Fox show that's the news if they want. Just, illustrate that there is a public rage against it. So yes, you have to, and it's also now we have a big political issue now, the shutdown negotiations, and here is again Hollywood lessons. You don't deal with bullies by begging. And can you just have Schumer and Jeffries just telling them again, you don't deal with bullies by begging. It's not about praying, Donald Trump, please, sit with us at the table. No, take your stand. Again, he doesn't stop. The bayonet doesn't stop before it meets steel. And yes, I know the shutdown is bad news. It's bad for the country, bad for the state. But this state is now being used against us, against our fundamental freedoms. So it's about showing that we have a will to fight. It's because it's so much is on instinct now. And Trump, he can smell it. The moment he smells weaknesses, like shark smells blood, he goes after kill.
So another similarity between the Russian experience and what we're dealing with in America, and particularly here in Hollywood right now, is sort of the rise of oligarchs. And Hollywood right now is sort of being absorbed by the tech world, which has been very accommodating, at least, if not enthusiastic about this administration. Now, how should we in Hollywood do we refuse to work? They're openly collaborating and capitulating to people who to administration wants to destroy our freedom. So how do we deal with the oligarch? Do we refuse to work for their company? Do we yell at them in restaurants? What is the best approach to?
I think yelling in the restaurants probably doesn't make much sense. Yeah, because I'm not sure we eat in the same restaurants. Yes, yeah. But I think it's the big problem is that so much money has been allocated in few hands, and these people, they are, who control these immense fortunes, just it's with number of zeros that beyond our ability to calculate. So they find it's more accommodating to deal with Trump. Can you imagine Steve Jobs, giving Ronald Reagan or Bush or Clinton a golden iPhone, or at that time, the golden Macintosh? So this, it's and the whole meeting of the captains of the industry. Can you imagine, just Rockefeller, Carnegie, just behaving this way with Teddy Roosevelt or Taft? No. So it's something about also the climate. They feel they can do it, and there's no pushback. So again, ABC's story with Kimmel was a good push. Let's again remember, we are in the majority. We're in the majority. Yeah, they have money. You cannot stop working, but you can start push. If you have movies, if they invest. So try to, again, keep your line, hold the line, and let's say, no, that's not doable. We're not going to move this direction. Negotiate. Again, you can't escape it, but illustrate that you're willing to fight for certain principles. There are red lines you will never cross, because the moment you cross one red line, they'll push. They'll push for another. And of course, hopefully, the new administration, when we have one. So they will have to consider, because there's a concentration of money in few hands. It's and not just money, technology, which means information. So when you have money, technology, information in control by very few people, that's a new form of oligarchy. Actually, there's in the podcast that I already mentioned, that's the Autocracy in America. I did it with the Atlantic. So it's the last episode will be this Friday. Next Friday. There was an interview with Gary Marcus, an expert on AI, and we talked about this new phenomena that we call techno-fascism. It's a very different form. Again, the word fascism is for me, it's a bad taste, because it's so easy to throw the word fascism. But this is a new form of exercising control over the process, electoral process. Elections look free. Maybe they're fair, but the whole process surrounding them, it's under control. So a little tweak here, a little tweak there, and it's very important that, again, that we recognize the threat, because it's so easy, just to channel public opinion one way or another. So especially when the country is so bitterly divided, and one percentage point could mean that's the change of policy 180.
So we're coming into our final segments here. A few questions. Endless amount would like to talk to you about at this moment, but I want to wrap it up with a few things. It's for you who have been on the front lines for over 20 years now. You had to leave your home. You faced, I can't even imagine how the kind of perils you've faced and had to deal with for 20. We hear talk about how we're going to get through three more years of this. You've got through 20. How do you keep going? What keeps you focused and positive and hopeful?
No, I grew up in the atmosphere of this of the decaying communism, and thanks to my home education, so I had access to books that weren't available in libraries. Also, I could travel at a very early age as chess prodigy. So first time I traveled abroad to France, I was 13. As the Soviet national champion under 18, I went to the World under 16 championship. So I could see the gap between the Soviet propaganda and the real life, and I wanted to learn more. And also, at home, just everybody knew the motto of Soviet dissidents: "Do what you must, and so be it." So there are fundamental things that you have to you defend. It's you stand your ground. Was I a hero? No, I just wanted to become the world champion. But the moment I saw that I had a chance to make a difference, that's what I learned from my late mother, I did it. As a young world champion in 1985, I used the Gorbachev's new freedoms to promote the message. And at a very early age, I joined the nascent pro-democracy movement in the Soviet Union. So actually my experience of fighting for freedom goes back to the late 80s. And now it was a big surprise to me. So this even to have this kind of conversation with you and others in America. But I think this the future of the world, it's being decided here as well. So if I have to pick up two battles, one is Ukraine, one is the United States. One is military, one is political. So it's the soul of America. It's not just, the future of America, because America is indispensable. There's no other America. And if America, will be succumbed to the dark vision of Donald Trump, J.D. Vance, and the rest, so that will have a ripple effect around the world. Same as if Ukraine loses the war, everybody will feel it, from Taiwan to Venezuela, from Belarus to Zimbabwe. So I see this as global battle, and those are two points of gravitas. But for me, it's a global battle. That's why it's a freedom against tyranny, and I think that's here in America, by sharing my experience, and that's explaining the real threats and how dangerous the situation is, how precarious it is now. So I'm making my contribution.
Are you hopeful that in our lifetimes we get to a place where we can relax a little and not live in this state of constant battle?
Look, I can tell you that, after these uphill battles I had in Russia or in the Soviet Union, I like our chances here much better. So just, we have tools, and we have majority of the country. It's what is important is to get organized, because it's why we are not winning, even just to mention losing, is we're not well organized. So we still don't feel, how much is at stake. And I think I can make my contribution, and promote the experience of dozens, actually hundreds of people like me from around the world. This is where America could learn from. So we looked at America as a source of inspiration. Now America, I think, should learn from our experience and inspiration, and to use it to win the battle. I think we should win the battle. It's just I'm incorrigible optimist by nature. I believe, that in a bright future, but it doesn't happen without us fighting.
What would be your advice for young people who, like you said, they're just coming into the world. They have dreams. They have things they want to do. That they're here coming to Hollywood. They may want to act or write or God knows what. But doesn't involve being a warrior for democracy. But are confronted with this moment. What's
No, one is it's very important to be educated, because again, I have very primitive advice. There's so many great books and movies you can read and watch, because it's the worst thing is when you get information from others. So first of all, always try to rely on first-hand information. So I can happy to just provide a list of books or movies that you have to watch and read the books and collect data, and then make your own opinion. But always try to take an active stand. It's, again, don't be part of the crowd. No, crowd is good. There's nothing wrong about crowd, but keep your individuality there. So this is, remember that it's that you may have an opinion that's slightly different from your comrades, from your business partners, from even your family members. There's nothing wrong about it, as long as you accept that others will have this, their different views, and we can work together. Yeah, there are values. There are fundamental values we should share, but we should not, try to go after one after each other with a big stick, if we disagree on some issues. Again, get active. And there are many cases. Now, and I know that there are some big stories. Like the Middle East is a big story. But, there are many other stories. Just look on the map. As I mentioned, Uganda. Next to Uganda is Sudan, the greatest geopolitical catastrophe in the world. Famine, genocide. Millions of people now, just as we speak, dying. So look at the world. Take these cases. But right now, I think it's very important that you learn from the rest of the world. You learn from history. You learn from books. You learn from the great movies. And you make sure that in 2026, we restore American democracy in all its glory.
Which brings us to our final great question. Speaking of education, we end this lunch every week with asking asking our guests to give their syllabus for Hollywood, their required reading or viewing or dining or whatever you do that you will require everyone who works in entertainment to consume. And I believe you've got a few selection for us. This is required.
Look, it's a long list. I thought about the book, that's I would recommend. So it's the book of Eric Larson, In the Garden of Beasts. I think it's important book to understand the nature of these authoritarianism, slightly, transforming into totalitarian regime. It's Berlin 1933-34, and it's about American Ambassador William Dodd, actually professor of history. And him communicating back to DC that it's going to be bad, and maybe it's things could get for better. It's Germany, civilization. So that's one of the books I suggest you can look at, and it's a great one. And as for the movies, that's a long list, but
ready.
The dark hour, the darkest hour. This is. It's not that we're in the darkest hour, but it's about leadership. So again, it's very important that this is what we're missing now. We have so many people that are trying to act like in like a cohort. Like this is let's work together. It's Europe is working on consensus. You don't win wars on consensus. We need leadership, and that's the darkest hour. Is a great illustration how one person, who's relying on traditions and a national mood can lead people in the right direction.
Nice. Is there what is the best depiction of chess on screen? When you back to that, is there a chess movie or chess?
Look, this is the as a chess advisor for the Queen's Gambit, I have to say this is understanding the nature of the game. It's a really good one. And by the way, if you're just interested, I suggest. I'm sure many of our listeners they watch the series. So, and I was very pleased that I worked with Scott Frank. So as an advisor, though originally I was offered to play Borgov, the Soviet champion. And despite all the tempting offers, to have my wife and both kids, just to as a part of the family to be portrayed in a movie, I stayed, just on the sideline and made my contribution as an advisor. But the book is also Walter Tevis was a very good writer.
Yeah.
So a lot of people actually just they never thought about him as just being a very influential writer. So he had six novels, and two of them actually made to Hollywood hits, Hustler and The Color of Money. Yeah.
And The Man Who Fell to Earth.
Man Who Fell to Earth, yes, this is and by the way, this is another one is the Mockingbird. It's a great book. It's the first attempt to analyze, the robot psychology. How a superior robot, just couldn't commit suicide, and needed, humans to actually help it. It's also a great book. So, and of course, The Queen's Gambit, which was it's another book. So, so that's if you have time. So I also suggest that you read, because we didn't talk about AI, but this is another big topic. I'm more than happy to have another conversation on it. Yeah. So, but Mockingbird is it's a first try to understand the human machine relations of that type.
That's a terrific work. Thank you so much, Mr. Kasparov.
Thank you very much for having me. And yes,
the Next Move Substack. Everyone.
Yes, thank you. Yes, absolutely. And I keep writing there. We do regular events now. We'll do a special event, on the First Amendment. So again, it's something that other countries do not have, but again, First Amendment is just it's a text. It doesn't defend itself. So this offers us a platform. We use it. We use these tools. We fight back.
Please keep fighting, and we will be there with you.
Thank you
so much
for
joining us.
Thank you very much. Okay, goodbye. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.